The door to the honeymoon suite clicked open, and a rush of cool air hit my skin. I looked up, expecting a hotel attendant with fresh towels. Instead, a tall woman stepped inside, rolling a hard leather suitcase that glinted under the warm light. Her perfume spread through the room like a flag claiming new territory. She smiled at my husband with the ease of someone who owned the place. My chest tightened, and a small sound escaped my throat before I could stop it. Mason did not look shocked. His shoulders dropped in what looked like relief, and his mouth curved into a soft smile. He moved toward her as if this were the most natural thing in the world. In that moment, my mind fractured between disbelief and a sick clarity. I thought I had married a man. I had married into a trap carefully disguised as love. She stood in the doorway like she belonged there. One hand rested on the handle of a designer suitcase, the other casually brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. Her perfume drifted into the room before she did, sharp and familiar, the kind that clings to fabric and memory alike. Her heels clicked once against the tile, then silence. Her face was calm, practiced, the kind of expression worn by women who are always in control and never questioned. She didn't ask if she was intruding. She simply walked in, looked around, and took in the room like she was inspecting it for flaws. My body didn't move, but my mind screamed. This was supposed to be my safe place. Our beginning. A suite paid for with joint savings, with ocean views and rose petals still fresh on the bed. And now it felt like a stage hijacked by someone who never learned to exit. He didn't flinch. No hesitation, no confusion, not even a glance toward me. Instead, he smiled, like someone who had been waiting for backup to arrive. His arms opened slightly, not to embrace her, but as if welcoming the inevitable. That was when something inside me cracked. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't poor communication or a last-minute emergency. He knew she was coming. He may not have booked the flight, but he left the door unlocked, and his silence was louder than any lie. I stared at them, standing side by side in the room meant for us. The woman who raised him. The man I thought I knew. I realized he wasn't surprised because he never saw it as a problem. To him, this was normal. To me, it was a betrayal dressed in politeness. And for the first time, I knew I wasn't just married to him. I was married to both of them. She called him every night before bed. At first, I thought it was sweet, even a little charming. A grown man still close to his mom. But the calls never stopped, even when we were out to dinner or on vacation. She always had a reason. She needed to hear his voice. She couldn't sleep unless she knew he was okay. Then there were the visits. She had a spare key to his apartment and would drop by without warning, sometimes tidying up or restocking his fridge. Once, I came over and found her folding his laundry. I laughed it off, told myself it was just her way of showing love. But deep down, I knew it was something else. She paid his bills, even though he had a 6-figure job. She managed his car insurance, his health appointments, and even his dentist. According to Forbes, more than 38% of adults in the U.S. have experienced emotionally enmeshed relationships in their families. I was becoming one of them without realizing it. I told myself it was just a single mom who gave too much, but now I see it clearly. It wasn't love. It was ownership. It started with the venue. I found a quiet vineyard just outside the city, small and elegant, exactly what I pictured. Natalie said it had foundation issues. When we moved the date, she suddenly remembered it was the anniversary of her late father's passing. The caterer I chose? She replaced them with someone who specialized in gluten-free menus, citing allergies no one in the family had. I didn't see my wedding dress until the morning of the ceremony. It wasn't the one I picked. It was lace, tight in places I hated, and looked like it belonged to someone braver or older. She said the boutique lost my original dress, and this was the only one left in my size. I stood in the mirror, numb, while she beamed behind me like it was her big day. At the reception, she sat beside Mason. Not across, not with the other parents. Beside him. She gave the longest speech of the evening. She cried while telling everyone how Mason was the greatest love of her life. Then she joined us during our first dance, her hand on his shoulder. My hand is forgotten. I laughed inside because if I cried, I wouldn't stop. In every photo, she is centered. In every memory, she is louder. I told myself it was just her being excited, just her being sentimental. After the wedding, things would be different. She would back off. We would finally start our life. That was the lie I kept whispering to myself as I smiled through the night like a good guest at someone else's show. There was a knock at the door. Mason didn't ask who it was. He didn't glance at me. He just opened it, like he'd been expecting someone. And there she stood, her suitcase beside her like it belonged there, her smile soft and victorious. She stepped inside and looked around as if the room were hers. I watched them greet each other. A hug, a kiss on the cheek. No apology, no explanation. I sat still on the edge of the bed, my hands numb in my lap. Then I looked down at the ring on my finger. It didn't feel like a symbol of love anymore. It felt like a receipt. I stood up, walked to him, pressed the ring into his hand. My voice was quiet but steady. If this is what you wanted, you can have it. I turned away before he could speak. I didn't need answers. I already knew. This wasn't my marriage. It had never been. I made it halfway down the hall before I heard his footsteps behind me. He called my name like I was being dramatic, like I was overreacting to his mother crashing our honeymoon. When I turned, he looked confused, almost amused, as if this was all just a misunderstanding we could laugh about later. He said she spent a lot of money on the wedding and didn't want to miss seeing us happy. He said she meant well. I told him if he said that one more time, I'd scream. My voice cracked, but I didn't cry. I asked him why he didn't stop her. Why did he let her do it? His answer was quiet, almost helpless. She already booked the flight. She didn't ask. She just did it. That was the moment I saw it. He didn't say no because he didn't know how. He was raised to obey her, to accommodate her. He didn't see it as a violation. He saw it as normal. He called me dramatic. He told me not to make a scene. I stepped into the elevator without another word. My hands were shaking, but my spine was straight. For the first time, I was choosing to leave. Not because I was weak, but because I was finally done being invisible. The concierge looked confused when I asked for a room. His eyes darted between the screen and me. Then he cleared his throat and said my husband had canceled the reservation. I stood still, waiting for him to correct himself. He didn't. My room was gone. I felt heat crawl up my neck as the realization sank in. Mason knew I would leave. Natalie probably told him the second she saw me walk toward the lobby. They were working together, not shouting or locking me in, but cutting off my exits one by one. It was a trap built with credit cards and silence. I opened my banking app. My joint card was frozen. My personal card had just enough for a flight, but not enough for another night in this hotel. My chest tightened. I had no plan, no backup. just a burning need to get away. But somewhere between panic and shame, a new voice cut through the noise, clear, steady, unafraid. If all I can afford is distance, then distance is enough. I booked the first Uber to the airport without knowing what flight I'd take. I didn't need answers yet. I just needed air and space, and a place where I could start remembering who I was before all of this. He found me just outside the airport entrance, folder in hand, like this was still a business negotiation. His eyes were glassy, but his hands were steady. He said he just wanted me to read something. I almost walked away, but something in his expression made me pause. I took the folder, opened it, and the air around me thinned. It was a prenuptial agreement. My name is printed across the top in bold. Below it, a clause that stopped my heart. If the marriage ended within 1 year, I would receive nothing. No division of property, no spousal support, not even reimbursement for wedding expenses. And the signature line, blank. I looked up at him. He shifted his weight, then said it was just a precaution, something his mother insisted on. According to LegalZoom, nearly 30% of women say they were pressured or misled about their prenup. I wasn't even pressured. I was excluded. This wasn't love. It was a financial contingency plan I was never allowed to review. My voice came out flat. You planned for me to leave before I even arrived. He said it wasn't like that. He said he never expected me to find it. That was the problem. They both counted on my silence, and they were about to learn what happened when the silence ended. I pulled out my phone. No threats, no screaming. Just one recording app, already running. I told him the truth could travel faster than his lawyer. And if I had to, I'd make sure it did. I held up my phone and told them it was too late. The recordings, the screenshots, the hotel bill with her name on it, I said they were already sent. Every sibling, every cousin, even the law firm where Mason worked. I let the silence settle like a warning neither of them expected. Natalie blinked once, then twice. Her face paled, lips tight, hands still at her sides like she was holding in something sharp. For the first time, I saw her confidence fracture. Her power had always been in what people believed about her. Perfect mother, noble matriarch. I had just threatened to take that away. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I watched her pride buckle under the weight of one sentence. The truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to be heard by the right people. He finally looked at me like he saw something he hadn't noticed before. Not anger, not fear. Just someone who had already left. His voice cracked when he said we could fix it, that he could change. For a moment, I wanted to believe him, but belief without action is just a delay. I told him love without boundaries isn't love. It's dependence. It's convenience dressed up as commitment. He didn't argue. He just stood there while I stepped back. Natalie said nothing. She didn't need to. They both understood. I wasn't asking for anything anymore. I wasn't waiting for them to catch up. I turned and walked away. Quiet. Certain. Done. 3 months later, the paperwork came in the mail. The divorce was final. The prenup didn't hold. No signature. No power. It had always been more intimidation than law. My attorney called it a scare tactic. I called it the last lie I ever let slide. Mason started therapy. He sent a short message that said I was right about everything. I didn't reply. Natalie made a public post about healing from toxic family dynamics. I didn't laugh. I didn't care. None of it mattered anymore. Not the dress I never chose. Not the dance I never finished. Not the promises they made or the plans they had. My freedom didn't come from fighting. It came from walking away without asking permission. Sometimes I still think about that honeymoon suite, sitting empty by the ocean. A room meant for beginnings. But I didn't lose anything there. I found my line, and I finally stopped pretending that love should come without limits. They can keep their version of the story. I have mine, and mine ends not with revenge, but with peace. If any part of this story felt familiar, you're not alone. Sometimes the clearest moments come after the hardest decisions. If you're working through something, take a quiet walk. Start a journal. Listen to a story that reminds you of your worth. This channel is a space for people reclaiming their voice. Stick around if you're ready for more stories that don't just entertain, but help you reconnect with your own strength. You don't need all the answers today, just a little more truth than you had yesterday.